chronicles the experiences of transgender women when it comes to accessing services with various government departments, such as the Departments of Health, Home Affairs and Education. That's LGBTQ Rights NGO Access Chapter 2's report, which calls on the public to commit to equal service and treatment and to ensure that transgender people have full access to their rights and services. Well, to tell us more, we are joined by Access Chapter 2's Motlatsi, Motseoile and Apryl Tshabalala, who is a transgender woman. It's great to have you both here in studio. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you.
Motlatsi, let me start with you. Briefly just tell us about the work that the NGO Access Chapter 2 does and why it decided to get involved in the work that it's getting involved in.
So Access Chapter 2 is a human rights NGO. Access Chapter 2 derived from Chapter 2 of the Constitution. So the whole idea behind the organization is to advocate for change within different spaces and drive access to the Bill of Rights for different minorities, LGBTI people, women, migrants and others. So the whole idea is to basically continue the conversation and pushing for wider access to those rights.
Apryl, I just quickly want to talk about your experiences or the experiences of those around you, those that you know, in being transgender or, you know, belonging to the LGBTQ community, how they've experienced access or the lack of access into certain spaces.
Okay, I can say that generally it's a bit challenging because so like the access is there, right? But I think it's just when we out there as transgender people in the society, in the public spaces where we we want to access like whatever, for example, just going to Home Affairs or the healthcare and public hospitals, exactly. It's a bit of a challenge for us because in most cases you find that like not a lot of people in those organizations or places are sensitized about like transgender people, and they're not well informed about like transgender people. And
I also want to talk, Apryl, about the background into the report on transgender rights and their lives in South Africa. How did that come about?
So basically, with regards to sorry, can you just repeat this?
I was talking about just the background into the report on transgender rights and their lives in South Africa.
If I may.
Not a problem.
So as an organization, what we realized was that having worked within the LGBTI space, there was quite a greater movement when it comes to the knowledge around gay people and lesbian women. But then transgender people, for instance, we don't know what the number of transgender people are in the country. We don't know in detail what their experience is in getting services. What we also realized was that when trans people go beyond seeking healthcare, now they go into the Department of Home Affairs to seek a change in their gender marker. And then the problem is that the system isn't accommodating to that, the knowledge, there are various knowledge gaps in that. So what we thought to do as an organization was to capture what those gaps are and then put it forward to government to say, how do we start changing those particular challenges that we then noticed or captured through collection of the knowledge in the report.
Motlatsi, I mean, the Serve Equally campaign, just speak to us about how, that feeds into everything else that you guys are doing.
So as an end result, what we hope for is for public officials, ministers, members of the public generally to make a commitment to equal treatment. We are all guaranteed equality within the Constitution, but we know that people don't actually have equal treatment within society. So the whole idea is to push everyone to make a commitment to treating everyone equally. And at this particular point, we are prioritizing the rights of transgender people, men and women, to say these people need to be treated equally in education spaces so that they realize the full extent of the law and the protections that are guaranteed by the Constitution within the healthcare system, within the Department of Home Affairs and other government services.
Apryl, I think sometimes we tend to forget that government or government workers or representatives or healthcare workers are all part of our immediate families and communities. What would you say that each individual can do in order to try and educate those in our own spaces, those in our own lives about transgender and just to make people more tolerable?
I think like for every transgender person out there, it's almost like we're fighting for inclusion, so just to be included in the society and be part of the society. but I think it all boils down to just like acceptance, you know. Like, I believe that, you know, if you, for example, have a transgender sibling or friend or whoever in your family or just around you, it's a good thing to not, you know, push the people away, but find means to sort of, you know, understand the person, and that makes it easy for you to go out there and actually, you know, educate people about,
Apryl speaks about acceptance, Motlatsi, and I mean, when you look at just how the South African communities or society is structured, there's so much that is a barrier. So it's cultural beliefs, the church system. How do we go about, again, making people see or know that, you know, being gay or being lesbian or being trans is actually just a form of living your truth and being yourself, and not trying to go against some greater force?
There are two schools of thought. The first one is that we live in South Africa, constitutional democracy. So at the base of it, ultimately, we need to just respect everyone's human rights and not try and impede or, you know, violate anyone on that. But at a social level, it's about learning. You could literally take it back to Ubuntu. It's about respecting one another and seeing one another, the very human and a very basic level, to say, I see you, you see me, I respect you, respect me, and that's all what it's all about. So I think it's about communicating that message constantly and reminding everyone that we are humans who must share a common space. We don't just live as like islands, you know, so we must always constantly remember to respect each other, and at a legal level, at a government level, ultimately we are all bound by the law to respect everyone and treat everyone with equality.
All right, and big ups to Botswana, right?
Yes!
Thank you so much, Motlatsi and Apryl, for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you both. Motlatsi, you do amazing work. We'll definitely be keeping, you know, up to date with what you're doing, and come back and tell us when you have engaged government at a broader level, and let us know what the responses have been like. That's LGBT Rights NGO Access Chapter 2's Motlatsi Motseoile and Apryl Tshabalala, who is a transgender woman, and they're speaking to us about a groundbreaking report on the lives and experiences of transgender women in South Africa.